Hello everyone, welcome to the Jagriti Yatra Meet the Yatripreneur Google Hangout series. I'm Anant Krishna. I will be your moderator for this discussion today. I have Ashwin Yogesh, who is on the technical side of the things. Please use the Q&A to ask your questions so I can call you out when we get a chance. And if you want to be a guest in our Yatripreneur series, please, if you want to be featured in it, please do contact Ashwin. We'll be very happy to have you. We want to hear your stories from the field, and it'll be awesome. And for today's Yatripreneur is Shalini Menon. Shalini, welcome to Yatripreneur, finally.
Thank you so much, Ashwin, Anand. Thank you. I'm excited and looking forward to this.
We start with you introducing yourself. What do you do exactly?
What do I do exactly? So what I do has a lot to do with who I am. So maybe I'll get into the who I am part a little bit first. Well, I'm originally a Kerala. I was born and brought up in New Delhi, and I grew up in a middle-class Punjabi area for 26 years of my life. Went on to become a public relations consultant, and that's where I was for nearly 8 years of my life. A hiking enthusiast. In 2008, I formally went to certify myself from mountaineering. I went to Himalayan Mountaineering Institute in Darjeeling, and then that's when I discovered there's something called outdoor education, and I think that that is what actually triggered my journey. And because that entire experience was so powerful for me, emotionally and physically so challenging, that I realized there's so much power in outdoors, and I discovered that this is a huge area of work, and that's where I started working with a lot of companies across India. I worked on campsites, on backpacking, wilderness-based programs for urban children. Actually, mostly most of them would come from middle to the elite background of sorts, and I really enjoyed it. Did that for a good 5 years, and at some point I discovered the power of adventure for children who are vulnerable, which means these could be youth at high risk. This could be children who have ran away from homes, or just the low-income group, the vulnerable group. And I realized that the power is just amazing, and I continue to explore that work in the development sector with a lot of NGOs. Sometimes as a consultant, sometimes as on short projects, and I think that's where the dots really began to connect. And in 2011, I found Jagriti Yatra.
Right, and then you set up Educators Collective. Talk a little bit about what Educators Collective does.
Sure. So I think I found Jagriti Yatra in 2011. And I realized that there's so many young people in the train that who are young, and they've set out to actually become entrepreneurs or innovators, and that was really inspiring, because I'm technically not that age group of Yatris on the train, right. But to really see them do a lot of this was very exciting. It took me 3 more Yatras to decide I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur, right. and that's where I decided to start Educators Collective. Educators Collective is actually something that I had not really planned for or thought about. I actually started a small initiative in Bangalore. It was a monthly gathering of educators in Bangalore, just for skill sharing and networking. It used to run on gift economy, right. And slowly that circle kept growing, and that's when I felt there is something more here. It had to go beyond doing something as an initiative or because I'm passionate about it. There was a bigger story here, and then I decided to begin my work at Educators Collective. So yeah, technically on paper we've finished 7 odd months. But the initiative that I started, it was called Fun Saturday, fun with a double N. It stands for functional understanding necessary and functional understanding not necessary. It's
Right.
a term coined by Carl Ronke, who's one of
Uh-huh.
the most amazing facilitators, globally. Um, so the initiative came first, and the organization came later, actually. And it's been very exciting, actually, in the last 7 months or so. A lot of amazing things have happened. We've gained a little bit of traction. Interestingly, 80% of our clients are from the development sector, and
Okay.
that was the whole intent of starting out, was to work. So very simply put, Educators Collective works on two different areas. One is building a community of experiential educators, um,
Uh-huh.
and the second is taking the power of experiential education specifically for low and middle income groups. Um, and the, and how did I come to that? I've been an experiential educator for 7 years, and if I really have to find my own peers across the country, it's very hard. I don't know what my own peers look like, what they do, what are their skills. There is no such common platform. I mean, other than Facebook and things like that, there is no such platform. And I thought building a community is very important, because we can't all continue to work as isolated islands.
Right.
The second part of why low and middle income groups, in my 7 years when I started this work, a lot of my work was with urban children who, like I said, came from a middle to high income levels, because technically, adventure based programs or outdoor based programs are expensive by nature.
Right.
But there's a lot of power and there's a lot of potential in experiential education, not just in recreational side of it, but on personal transformation, personal growth, on life skills development. And I realized that while there's a huge market that caters to the high income group and the elite income group, there really is no player in the market who is a for-profit organization but is able to tap into the low and middle income group.
Okay. Let me take a step back. When you say educators, you mean teachers, right? Basically. So you are teaching
Uh,
the teachers. Is that right?
well, so here's the thing. So experiential education shifts the focus from teaching to helping people learn.
Okay.
So when I say, so Educators Collective focuses only on experiential educators. Having said that, in our community there are classroom teachers also, because experiential education is not a replacement for classroom teaching.
Uh-huh.
It is a value add to what goes inside schools, inside colleges, inside classrooms. So the idea of experiential education is not to replace textbooks, but to say, let's create a balance of learning by doing and learning from the text. So that, sorry.
So give us a sense of numbers. I mean, what are the numbers in Bangalore alone? You might know that, how many low income to middle income schools are we talking about? How many such educators is that you're trying to address?
Sure. The Fun Saturday initiative that I started for educators, it is today a 200 members strong collective, and it has a very diverse group of people. It has artists, it has photographers, storytellers, dancers, all kinds of people who can contribute a certain medium, in the context of experiential education. Um, so that's the educator side of it. The work, like I said, 80% of our clients are in the development sector. So they are NGOs within Bangalore, in smaller places like Mysore, Pondicherry, even Chennai. So we
Okay.
worked in the places. So
Okay. So
I,
now when you set it up though, you said for profit. I want to catch on to that. You're
yeah.
in a field full of NGOs. Why set it up as a for profit?
Why not? I mean, that was the simplest question that I had.
Okay.
Doing work for people in the social sector stemmed from a space that there is a huge need. You know, However, a lot of staff training and upskilling workshops doesn't really take place because it is beyond the budgets of most people who are in the development sector, unless, of course, you're talking about the big guys like the World Bank and things like that.
Right.
Um, but a majority of development sector is not able to really invest their time into building capacity of their staff, or doing a lot of innovative workshops for their participants.
So when you did some analysis of the numbers, did you find that you could be sustainable, with this for-profit business model in this, sector?
Sure. I think in the last 7 months itself, we have gone beyond breaking even. Educators Collective was started with a small amount of 60,000, actually, where some money went into the creation of the logo and the website, and that's all the investment we made. And I think over the last 7 months, we've actually gone into profits actually already.
That's awesome. So now, how do you market yourself to the NGOs out there? How do you say, hey, we are here, Educators Collective, we do this? How do you do that?
There are three ways we do it. One is, with the world that we live in today, we are so connected with each other. There's social media, there's blogs, there's internet. It's very easy to let people find you. That's definitely one. The second is, our network. I think because of my experience of having been in the development sector for so long, it was very easy to just call up, my previous consultants or previous heads and say, I've started on my own, and this is what we do. And so that's the second piece of it, immediately through your network. And the third is referrals. Interestingly, a lot of our work has come from referrals. Our client experiences your work, goes out and talks about it to someone else. And of course, largely, but this is a very small part, is active sales calling. So you make your cold calls, get an appointment, go out there, meet a client. But that's a very small piece, because I think just leveraging on our network itself flooded us with some work over the first 7 months.
So I heard you say we. How big is your team, and how did you go about finding your team, your core team?
So right now there are two people, who are involved kind of on a daily basis, and they form the core. Both of them are people I have actually worked with in the past. And I always loved their work, their commitment, their eye for details, their ability to work independently. Something I was very sure was about not bringing best friends, into this business, because that often comes with a lot of emotional baggage. It's kind of difficult to deal with a lot of conversations. And like I said, out of the collective of 200 odd people, in the last 7 months, our workshops have engaged around 20 to 25 educators in our workshop. So they've actually taken a certain percentage of the total revenue as a consulting fees and benefited from that.
So you've structured it so that you have consultants now, right? That
yes.
Take your philosophy and do these workshops, right? That's how you structure it.
That's right. I think
So now, how do you measure impact?
Well, that's a question
Go ahead with that.
Sorry. So the piece that I was saying is, I think as an entrepreneur, something I wanted to be very careful about is salaries can often become, liabilities. So how do we best effectively use people's time and skills? And that's where, for me, came the very idea of working as consultants on a project basis and taking a certain percentage of the revenue. It helps everybody. To answer your question, we haven't really, in these 7 months, we haven't really got down to saying this is the tool we are going to use to assess impact, and this is the, this is the way we will be able to capture the impact of our work. Having said that, yes, there is place for evaluation. Often post-program, we send out surveys to our participants. We take their feedback online, which is later captured into post-workshop reports, and then we share it back with the client. So at this point, I think that's pretty much what we have. It's a big area, I will admit that. But at this point, there is so much that we are dealing with. I think to put an actual assessment tool is definitely on the priority, and it's also very important to capture that. But we haven't really found a solution to that piece.
But do you have a philosophy for metrics? I mean, is there some guidelines out there for these metrics? how many head count you're influencing, how are the kids, I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to throw something. Enlighten me here.
I think at this point, if you ask me, how many people has our work touched, then yes, I will have an answer. Like I said, 200 educators and, roughly maybe 300, 400 people who perhaps have attended our workshop through different organizations. So yes, that way there is an answer. But the struggle with this work is that, when we talk about life skills development, let's just take an example of the ability to make decisions independently. That's a life skill, right? How do you really measure something as intangible as that?
Right.
Also building this kind of a skill in someone is a long-term process. You can't do it in one workshop or two workshops. It takes a lot of learning and then application, and the process is long. So I think that's something that I struggle with. Like, how do you really measure leadership?
Right. Right.
So
But see, I see the need that clients are going to come to you in the future and say, "Hey, show me some metrics, right? I mean, I'm spending so and so amount of money. What am I getting in return?" Are you hearing that kind of talk right now, or are you? I mean, you're still a pioneer that you don't hear that.
I wish I was a pioneer. No, I'm not. But I think the nature of a work, for instance, I think the idea is to set expectations very clearly,
Right.
and that happens in your first meeting with the client, where you promise them you will not deliver magic.
Right.
And the idea is to just keep it simple and tell them, okay, if you want to resolve conflict in your team, it takes an X amount of time, an X amount of commitment, and X amount of engagement in workshops. And setting that expectation is very right. Otherwise, that's where disappointment creeps in later on. And that's the piece we take care of. Like sometimes, a school might come to us because of budget restrictions or logistical challenges and say, "Can you build life skills?" And I'm excited. I'm like, "Great, sure, let's begin." And they say, "We will give you a 2-day workshop."
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
of course, I can be kind to their approach because they have genuine struggles as a
Right.
low or middle income school. But the truth
Right.
is that you really can't build somebody's confidence or self esteem or decision making in 2 days. And that's the kind of expectation we set very clear in our very first meeting. you know
Right. Right.
I think a lot of people in their marketing and sales pitch might actually deliver promise, but we don't, deliver, the promise of magic, and that's
Right.
something that we don't do at all. And I think because that expectation is always clearly set with your
Right.
client, it doesn't lead to confusions or unnecessary tension or friction later on.
Yep. Yep. I'm going to ask you a question about from Surya Narayan Balasubramaniam. He says, "What are the future goals you've set for Educators Collective?"
Okay, great. Thank you for the question. I think my immediate goal is to just stay focused, in terms of, what do you say, gaining a strong footing within Bangalore. Um, I think, and just staying focused on building more clients and building more educators in our network. I think that's my immediate focus. Maybe 5 years from now, I might want to, spread across and experiment across different locations. But at this point, I don't really. I'm actually taking just one step at a time.
Right.
So if you ask me, I just want to build a very strong presence within Bangalore as a market, and maybe a little bit more around Karnataka. I think that's how I can best respond to that question.
Okay, Shalini, we're running a little short of time, so I'm going to run with a couple of other questions that I've had for you. Is a couple of personal lessons learned so far. If you can be very concise answers for this, what are the personal lessons learned so far in this journey?
I think lesson number one is entrepreneurship has nothing to do with heroism. It's a very simple thing. So if you really want to experiment with this, the idea is to just go for it and give it a shot. Second is, the world and the community that we generally live in is highly supportive by nature, and I think in today's time, entrepreneurs' new ideas are respected and appreciated. So this is a great time to actually go out there and do your own thing. Um, and finally, just knowing the difference between, you know, uh, being a risk taker and being insane. Just knowing where that balance is, I think that is important.
Okay, the next question comes from Rishabh Satyam. He says, I want to be a startpreneur, but somewhere lack the business sense and technicalities. Can you please suggest some ways to become well equipped on this front?
Sure. So there are two things I want to say for this. One is, if you look around India right now, there are so many accelerator programs, incubation programs, so many programs that are bringing together entrepreneurs. Look at the example of a Construct Festival. It's so easy to connect with people directly and get insights and feedback. So definitely utilizing those platforms, And the second piece is, I think, in India, it's actually quite easy to do your paperwork and set up your own business, unlike, say, some place like America, where you get into so many legal entanglements and things like that. Right. So I think it's just about going out there and, gaining access to the platforms that I spoke about, meeting a lot of people, and once you meet them, you can use their knowledge and life experiences as insights.
Shalini, who are your role models? One personal and one professional.
One personal, one professional. I think personal is definitely my mom, because I mean she's pretty much done everything for us and who we are today. My professional mentor is somebody called Agyat. He is an experiential educator and facilitator. He's a Play for Peace trainer. He's currently in Bihar, working with Dalit youth, building leadership and life skills in the region of Patna. I think he's one of the most inspiring people I have ever met.
Ah, okay. What advice do you have people entering the field, the education field? What advice do you have?
Yeah, giving advice is always very easy, but I will say what I very strongly feel about education is that, somewhere in our attempt to become entrepreneurs and start, companies and make profits, something that I personally want to be very sensitive and aware about all the time is that education is actually not an industry. It is a place which, impacts and empowers children. So never losing sight of that, I think, that is very important. The moment you go out there, chase money using products and services, make it highly commercial, compromising on ethics, values, I think even billions of dollars can't justify that.
Right. That's it. You have a favorite quote which says that an individual that risks nothing is nothing and has nothing. Can you explain that? Who says, yeah.
That's a great research done, Anand. Well, yeah, I think, taking simple risks like getting out of your home and taking a decision to cross the road is a risk, or getting into the kitchen and cooking your first omelette is a risk, or going into a crowd and striking your first conversation with a stranger is a risk. Right. So, and risk is not really necessarily big $1 billion. We actually take risk at every single day of our lives, right? Plugging your laptop into a switch code, there is a risk involved there also. But I think the idea that it's okay to fail, that's one. And sometimes we really have nothing to lose. A lot of it is mental in our heads. We really don't lose anything actually, and I think as a society we live in we are very critical of failure. We tell children not to fail, and I think that's where the fear comes in. But really, I think without taking a risk, we actually can't be anybody or do anything.
Right. That's it. I'm going to open the floor. If anybody else wants to ask questions, please fire away right now. Anybody? Anybody wanting to ask questions? Hello, anybody wanting to ask questions? Well, Shalini, I guess that 1 sec, I'll just see the chat messages. I guess somebody's asking. I guess there are no questions, Shalini. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Anand.
We wish you and Educators Collective a great future ahead.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Jagriti.
Cheers. Yeah. Cheers. Bye. Bye.